let's lengthen out the time horizon and let's shrink the goal on what we need to do right now.
I mean, every single person wants the shortcut, right? Everyone wants like how do you get in good shape, or like how do you make that money, or how do you do that? And it's always the same. It's literally consistency, discipline, take that first step, and then analyze the data. Like that works for everything. If you want a six pack, if you want $1 million, you want a Lamborghini, you want to go and buy an island in the Bahamas, like it's the same for every single thing. But no one wants to hear that. Like it's not cool. It's not cool to say, yeah, start a business, and in 2.5 years, it will be really good and it'll be a better life than you have now. But for those first 2.5 years, it's probably going to be worse than your current lifestyle. People can't take that on their ego.
You are listening to the Take a Step podcast, where we help young men reject complacency and take purposeful action every day. My name's Josh Johnston. Let's take a step. Welcome back to the Take a Step podcast, guys. Today we are joined by someone who's just got such an inspirational story and puts out some great content, and I'm really excited to really dive in and just hear more about it. So today we are joined by Freddie Pullen. Freddie, how are we feeling today?
I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to jump in. I came across some of your content, I think through a post on Instagram, but man, some of the stuff you put out just resonates so deeply with the young entrepreneur that's trying to build, that's in that growth stage, and the mindset, the tactical advice that you offer is just so great, and it's content that I love. You know, I love it when it pops up on my feed all the time, so I'm excited to hear a little bit more about your story today and showcase that for the Take a Step audience. But as we get started, I'd love to just kind of tee it up to you to let you introduce yourself however you think it makes sense.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm glad to hear that the content is being well received by someone other than my own mum. So that's brilliant. But effectively, my name's Freddie. I'm the CEO, founder of The Healthy Entrepreneur. So I'm sure we'll go through my journey, but effectively we help entrepreneurs and businesses scale by leveraging borrowed trust through podcasts. I've also got and built my own top 1% podcast. And in reality, that term borrowed trust is what I'm really, really interested in. I was never going to be the guy when I quit my corporate job to go and dance on TikTok and stand in front of a Lambo and like pretend that this is all what was happening to me. I've really documented my journey where, you know, you start a business and your net worth just completely drops, and the sorrow and the stress. And I think that's where I hope the emotion comes through in the content, because we're just, you know, me and my fiance Antonia, we're just here. We're the team now, but we're just documenting our journey, building, showing the reality, and helping people along the way.
Yeah, well, that I can tell you from firsthand, that's definitely coming through on the other side of your audience. So yeah, great job, man. It's doing really well. But you talked about leaving your corporate job. I'd love to start there because, you know, I resonate with that. That was me and my story as well. So I'd love to hear from you. Like, what were you doing? What were you doing before you started The Healthy Entrepreneur, and what led to that? Like, what was the initial, I guess, where are you at mentally that triggered that thought of like, maybe it's something, maybe this isn't my future. Maybe I have a different destination or a different desire that I really want to take action on. So like, what led to you leaving that corporate job?
Yeah, for sure. So both of my parents, they were both in the police their entire lives. Like they were just the guys on the beat. I don't know if that's what you'd say in the US. Like they were the ones out there in the cop car all day long doing the shift work. So I was never around entrepreneurs. I was just on that conveyor belt of life. You know, it was like go to school, get a job, go to university or college, and buy a house. That was the path that I saw for me. And I really didn't like that idea. I felt like I had more to give. And so, you know, after we finished school in the UK at 18, I had a year off where I just went and worked, like any shop that would take me, just to do anything. I tried to launch business after business, and it never worked because I just had no mentor. No one would tell me what to do. So everything failed. I ended up just going to university. I studied business management. I went to France for one semester, 6 month semester, just to try and be different, like just to try and get my head above everyone else that was at university. I felt like everyone was like a sheep just being herded towards this life of just boredom and being stuck. As soon as I finished uni, I was like, well, I need to do something else. So I did a master's degree in economics because, again, I was like, I need something. You know, if everyone's got a degree, then who's got a master's? Let's try something. And so I did that. And then I fell into a couple of corporate jobs. One was as an analyst. In the UK, hopefully, maybe you're aware, we love our pubs, right? So this was effectively a pub company. It had 200 pubs, but these pubs would do £1 million, so maybe $1.5 million a year. So 200 big businesses or medium-sized businesses. And so I was an analyst for them. So I was really seeing how to run people, how to manage, how to look at the data and how to market. And from there, I was able to get this job at the company that we're going to get onto. So the CRO of this company, which is called Future, it's the world's largest digital publisher. They do about $4 billion a year. They're a massive company, and it's all about storytelling. It's all about building audience through written content and a lot of video stuff and personal brand, but it's not influencers, it's written stuff. And so I got this job because the CRO was allowed to hire one young person to come and be, a person in training, I guess. And so I got into that job, and I can't tell you what I learned from that company. I was there for 3 years. My bosses were 30. I was 24, 25. So they were responsible for the budget of, $300,000 a day profit is what we were hitting every day, and that is you can imagine even from that number how much we are learning. We are buying companies, we are selling companies, we are putting in affiliate systems, managing teams of editors who are just getting 500 million plus monthly views on their articles. And it was so high. It was so high stress, but also just such an amazing experience. And so I got to 27, and I think this is pretty normal. Between like 27 and 32, I'm going to say it, especially men, I think we would have achieved more by then. You know, I think we all thought that we would have smashed it. I'd be doing $1 million a year, and I'd have a Ferrari and whatever's important to you. But at 27, I wasn't. My boss, I think, was maybe 35 by then, and he was like, in 7 years' time, you could be where I am. And I was like, that's not exciting. That's not exciting. To the same office, you just have a bit more money than me. I'm not doing this for 10 years. So that was where my mindset was. I just thought, my parents had told me I have to do this thing. I've now followed the process through. I had bought a couple of houses. I was renovating them. And that idea of going home and renovating a house and adding value on my own time was far more exciting than working and getting that paycheck at the end of the month. And so I always wanted to quit and do something. I traveled a lot for university, but I didn't actually have the balls just to quit. It took a life-changing experience for me to actually quit, which was a quite a horrific car crash. I was actually with my fiance. We were driving just 4 miles down the road, and a car hit us head on and flipped us upside down. And we rolled over into a ditch, and we're there in the dark, face down. And there was smoke, and there was blood, and there was screaming. And in that moment, all you think of is just survival, right? You're like, let's just get out of here and we'll move on. And so we were lucky enough to get away from that crash with minor injuries. So like cuts, bruises. I've had physio for years, but nothing that's changed my life in terms of physically, which is so lucky. But we went back from that accident after the paramedics and the fire brigade had looked after us to our house. And you walk back into that house, and it was like we were never left. We're in some part of the UK where you can leave the windows open, and our Labrador was there that we bought during COVID, like everyone else. And I was about to go back to work after my lunch break that I'd gone out to go and get some lunch. And in that moment, when you just had your fiance screaming and blood pouring everywhere and darkness and smoke, we really had a realization that this is our chance, right? We've always wanted to do something. We felt frustrated. We felt like we could do more. And this was the chance. And so within 2 months, we'd moved 4,000 miles around the world to Dubai. We'd sold both of our houses, quit our jobs, sold everything to move over to Dubai and start a business. And that really was the start of our entrepreneurial journey, just taking a massive leap of faith and believing in ourselves.
Yeah, man, that's a very, very unique story. Why do you think it took the car crash in order for you to have that mindset shift? Hey guys, we'll jump right back into the conversation, but I want to give y'all a quick look into MMP Customs. They make all of the Take a Step apparel, and they are the official sponsor of the Take a Step podcast. Check them out.
Hey guys, I'm Nathan Mooney, co-owner of MMP Customs. We are a custom merchandise company specializing in screen printing and embroidery. If you're a business, band, school, or any other type of organization that needs custom merchandise, MMP Customs is the place. Whether you have a big apparel need for an event or need to outfit your company, we offer a no minimum guarantee and have never missed an approved deadline. At MMP Customs, you will experience the best customer service there is. Let our family outfit yours. Visit mmpcustoms.com. That's mmpcustoms.com.
I think a lot of people are they're shown a path of safety, right? So my path was always safety. My parents were like, to get a job and do the simple things. My friends weren't entrepreneurial. They all had jobs. And so I think it takes something or someone to push you. Maybe for your listeners now, maybe that's not quite their story, but for me, that's what it took, especially in the UK where people are quite reserved, right? No one wants to be different. You'll be judged for being different. You know, we're quite a relatively quiet nation, a relatively reserved nation. And I think in that environment, people don't necessarily want to see you win. They want to see you achieve similar to what they've done in the same environment they did it. So it's not like places like Dubai or the US that we spend a lot of time in now, where they're like, go on, take the risk, take that move. You can do it. You're amazing. And I feel like that's the message we need to be sending to people who are in their 20s and have got incredible experience and knowledge and skills to share, because it was the best thing that ever happened to me, was that car crash and that perception shift of life. So whilst maybe I should have taken the risk before, I can't be thankful enough for that guy who came around the corner on his phone and plowed straight into our car.
I love that. That's an awesome perspective to have on the situation, just from the mindset and how you perceive, what could be trauma. And I'm sure there is traumatic memories from that, but like flipping that around, very similar to how like you have the victim mindset and the growth mindset, right? Like the victim mindset says like the world's happening to me, while the growth mindset says the world's happening through me. So I love that. And dude, one of the things you've hit on a couple times, about following the herd and like the fears associated with being different. Very, like my favorite quote in the world, I heard it from Chris Williamson on the Modern Wisdom podcast. Following the herd makes us feel safe, but something stands out because of contrast, become extraordinary by being different. So like you literally talk about like when you were coming up, like you go to college, you feel like you're following the herd. You're just, a sheep following along with the herd. What do people do in order to like take that next step after college? Normally, well, we get my master's. Well, let me step into the corporate world. Oh, let me get, maybe a better company and try to work my way up there. Like your story, I fully resonate with, because like for me, that was, I felt like for my whole life up until I was about 24, I felt like I was doing what the world told me I was supposed to be doing. Like this is what my parents did. This is the environment I grew up in. This is how you achieve success, right? And I do that with air quotes, because it's funny because everybody puts like success, they paint it as this blanket term that's like it means the same for everybody. That couldn't be further from the truth, right? Exactly. For you, I guarantee you the higher ups at the first two companies you were working at had their own definition of success, and they felt like they were on that path. And I had the same experience. And for me, it took me working two jobs of being unfulfilled, and just, burnt out on what I was doing, and saying like, this isn't the life that I want. Like the world may tell me I'm building the successful life, but I hate the work I do. I hate my Mondays through Fridays. I enjoy the weekends. I enjoy the benefits. And you said something that I love, which you talked about how we're very comfortable. Like we don't like taking that risk. We don't like the fears associated with it. And that's something that I love, because like I'm a firm believer that like choosing the comfortable path, making the comfortable decision is only going to lead to more discomfort down the road. Like there's the famous poem, Choose Your Hard. Like no matter if you choose hard now, or like if you choose hard now, you can either choose hard now or you're going to be forced to choose hard later. That's essentially the gist of the poem. But yeah, man, like it's such a cool story to hear, like the very similar path from, doing what you felt like you were supposed to be doing and being met with an uncomfortable, traumatic situation that flipped your perspective. So I love to hear that in your story.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually to your point on like we don't want to stand out. I literally was reading this study. There was some scientists in Africa, and they were studying zebra behavior, and you can imagine the scenario. They're making notes, they're doing data observations, and they're looking up, and they keep seeing different zebra because it's so hard to differentiate when you're trying to do some studying in the field. And so what they decided to do was put a bit of red paint on the zebra that they were focusing on. And which zebra do you think the lions ate first? It's the ones with the red paint on, right? Because they had something different. And so the interesting part of that sort of anecdote is that you would think, sure, the red paint makes them look wounded, but actually what's happening there is that they're the ones that stood out, right? So they're the ones that we are scared to be. We're scared to be the differentiated factor. But in actual fact, in the elongated study, those are the ones that were left or were able to escape the lions. And that's maybe there's some relevance in there, maybe there's not. But the point is that you shouldn't be scared to be the person that stands out. You know, if they had put a red mark on a different zebra, the English and Americans are so difficult.
Yeah.
Would they have been eaten? Like, I think it's always perspective. I just love the quote, and this is a big thing in Dubai. You know, there's so many millionaires here, and there's so many billionaires. You're around people that are they haven't got these problems, or they see problems in a different way because money's not one of theirs anymore. And one of the things that I think is really nice that a lot of these successful guys and women say is, hate only comes up, never goes down. So for example, if someone's hating on you, or they're saying you shouldn't do that, or don't take that risk, or don't move jobs, or don't start that business, it's because they're behind you, whether it financially or in their mindset. Because someone who's ahead of you, maybe they've already made their millions, maybe they've started a charity and they've helped tens of thousands, they will never laugh at your ideas, your content, your appearance, because they know you're on a journey. And I think that is something that I'm reminded of all the time, right? I never, ever wanted to do Instagram content. I'm happy with a bit of YouTube, podcast, LinkedIn, newsletter, it's fine. But Instagram was always the one to me where I thought, I just don't want to do it because I know it's just that first 3 seconds. If you can get some attention, that's how you win. And that's not interesting to me. That's a game that I'm not willing to play, but I've started to do it because I think there's some value in it. I think it'd be a cool thing to learn, and I love a challenge. And I was right. You know, it's all about attention, and people have not liked a lot of the stuff, but those are the people that shouldn't be around me. If you're hating on someone, it's because you're not the person that I should be around anyway. And so I don't think I have much time anymore for people who say it's a lack of confidence, because you only have to do 2 or 3 things and you'll realize that was a mental blocker that you can get over in 5 minutes.
Yeah. So what kind of hate have you, or not, it doesn't even have to be hate, maybe we can call it judgment from others. Like, have you experienced any of that since you've really stepped out on this journey that you have of pursuing your passion?
Oh, for sure. People want to say to you like, I can't support you with this, or you can't come on my podcast because you haven't made enough money, or you haven't got enough followers, or, why are you putting that online? It's embarrassing. You shouldn't be doing that. And that's advice coming from someone who does like $30,000 a year, 9 to 5 in their job. Like, I'm not going to take advice from that person. And so another thing that I've really, really learned is to only take advice from people that have done what I want to do or have got what I want. And that, again, doesn't come down to material goods. It comes down to, what does their lifestyle look like? Have they built a happy family? Are they healthy? Are they smiling and living the life they wanted to live? Because if so, I'll take advice from that person all day long. I'm not going to take advice from the person that is, in my opinion, behind in their mindset, like I said.
Yeah, no, that's very accurate. I hear people talk about all the time. It's like, why would I take advice from somebody who's not somewhere I want to be? And typically, like, what's funny is that those are the same. Usually, those are the people that spread that hate, that spread that judgment, are the people in positions that you don't want to be in. And it's funny, like since 2020, since COVID, where, everybody lived on their phones and felt like the strongest person in the world behind the jail cell of the keyboard. It's funny that, that judgment spread real quickly from people who weren't in powerful positions. So that's just a unique way to look at it. But, I mean, as you stepped into this, you talked about like Instagram isn't something that you wanted to get on for a while. From my perspective, it's like I kind of have that same like view of Instagram. It's like it can be very superficial. There's not a lot of depth to it. There's not a lot of real connection. The way I looked at it is like, for me, that's not where I'm trying to actually do what I want to do. That's for me to build the audience and to build the reach and to get the attention, because like a lot of the attention is there on Instagram. So if I can reach them there and then bring them on into either my community or help them to subscribe to my newsletter or listen to the podcast, that's where they're going to get the real value. Is that kind of where you see like your strategy for using Instagram?
Exactly. You know, it's all about trust, isn't it? Like, it's whatever platform you want. To me, it's just about trust. And so
yeah,
already we've had some really cool stuff happen just from posting on Instagram for a few weeks, because there are people that have found you on LinkedIn or listened to the podcast. They might follow you on Instagram and they go, you know, oh, he just doesn't post very often. That's fine. Then you start showing up, and people use Instagram in a very different way to reading newsletters or getting into their inbox or LinkedIn or podcasts. They're usually just scrolling, right? It's just an attention behavior. It's probably the evening, could be the morning, but they're not looking for anything particular, just a little bit of entertainment or inspiration. So if you can show up in a different way, I think it's definitely helped our business already in the first 2 or 3 weeks. And that's with losing followers as well. It's not even been about followers for us. And I'm a big advocate for this game is not about followers. It's about borrowing trust and building familiarity.
Yeah, definitely. I can tell you, like, especially through your captions, like on Instagram, like that's something that I when I read through your captions, I'm like, dude, this guy is literally like putting everything I'm thinking into words that I haven't been able to form on my own yet. Like, I want to read one of your captions that I read the other week. It was one on the topic of improving and like who you're becoming, especially now that you're on this journey. But I'll read it real quick. Improving. For me, the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to get better. One podcast at a time, one gym workout at a time, one business conversation at a time, 1 week at a time in my relationship with, is it Antonia?
Yeah.
Antonia. When I left my job in 2022 and launched myself into my own business, I had no idea what I was doing. I took a risk that could have cost me everything, but we did something I don't think many people are doing, but should. We backed ourselves and committed to learning. Now I feel like I'm sharper and stronger. Yes, I'm still learning. I believe everyone can learn something from someone, but I'm learning at a different level to when I started, because those small wins add up, and over time, they will change everything. Tell me a little bit about, like, where was your head at that led you to put that into words?
No, I think there's so much in that. Like that sums up like our journey, to be honest, that caption, because when I started, I really wanted to get into rooms with people that I knew were better than me. And like I said earlier, so many people didn't want to help. They don't want to help you because they don't see the value in helping someone. And so I committed to being a person that was on a lifelong journey of learning. I never want to be that guru. I hate the word expert because you can't achieve that status. You have to just be someone that learns. Chris Williamson's a great example. He literally shows I just want to learn. But you can learn a lot from him. If you went and just paid for a couple of hours with him, he's got loads of knowledge, but he'll never position himself as that guy who is the guru. And I really like that. I resonate with that because I just want to learn. I've always been hungry to learn and find more information. And so for me, I've got a product background. So I know that big change is bad, but iterative change and constantly improving on small areas is where you get that compounding effect of progression and of improving. And so for me, that's all we've done. That's all we've done. And I think the video is just me going for a run. And that was actually Christmas, what day is it? Christmas Eve, 24th of December last year. I was challenged on the 23rd by a friend saying I'd never run a half marathon. And he was like, I think you could do it. I think if you just got it in your mind and you went and did it, just go. And so the next morning at 5 a.m., I was on the Palm in Dubai and I just went and did a half marathon. Hour and a half, hour and 45, whatever it was. Not impressive, but I did it. And that would never have happened if I hadn't been training for like the last 10 years over with CrossFit and rugby and whatever. It's always been in slight improvements. It's always had that mentality and that I guess consistency and discipline, just to be like, just look for tomorrow, look for the day after. And again, also to add to that, actually about business, I think if you set your time horizon too short and your goal too big, you'll never achieve it. If you want to make $1 million in 6 months' time, it's really unlikely. But if you do Instagram content, if you can run ads, if you can get on podcasts, if you've got a solid offer, if you write a book, if you can do all that over the next 6 to 12 months, it's unreasonable to believe that over the next 18 months to 2 years, you won't make that $1 million plus. That's the way I see things. And I just started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, literally like 3 weeks ago, for a number of reasons. Number one being I wanted to stop running because I was so bored of running. I wanted to learn something new. And actually, I really wanted like a humbling, right? I was like, everyone says they can fight. And I was like, I've done a bit of fighting just in like rugby. Like it just happens. I'm sure like NFL, for example, like, or hockey, there's always going to be fights here and there. But I was like, if I got into a real fight in a pub, I know that someone who's had 6 months of training and fighting will know what to do. They'll know better than me. And so I've just committed again to this journey of let me learn something new and I'll get better in tiny, tiny bits. It'll take me ages. But it's exactly what I did with the podcast, exactly what I did with LinkedIn, exactly what I'm doing with YouTube and Instagram now, exactly what I did with our email list. Slight changes. Keep improving and read the data and I'll get there. So yeah. That's been my mentality.
Yeah, I mean that's literally the exact same mentality behind Take a Step. Like the reason I started the brand was, so many people, whether if it's fear or complacency, they either fear the judgment, they fear failure, they fear they get paralysis by analysis. The fears because they're associating what they need to do with this huge accomplishment that they want to achieve down the road. But it like you're never gonna get like the phrase I have at the end of all my newsletters and kind of the tagline behind Take a Step is every mile begins with a step. Like like every mile that you have in mind that you're trying to accomplish, it starts with one step. So if that's where my focus can be on the step, it doesn't seem that daunting and it's easy to get started. And that like once you starting is what produces momentum, and then you can pivot momentum because like when you start something new, sorry, you're not going to be good at it. Like no one's ever good when they start something for the first time. I look back on my podcast like back in 2023 when I had my $20 Amazon mic and was recording in a GarageBand and reading off a script, and I'm like, I look back and I know what I was putting out was crap, but at the same time it wasn't because it was genuine. It was authentic. I wasn't trying to be someone I wasn't. But it like putting out that poor quality was a necessity to get to where I am now. And I'll look back in 2 more years at where I am now and have the same associations that I have now with where I was 2 years ago. So it's just like this evolving process. But if I'm focused on becoming Joe Rogan or Chris Williamson, that seems like something that's impossible. And for most people, that's where they find themselves stuck because they think, all right, they've achieved this. It's going to take so much work. And I don't want to, start and fail and never get to where I want to go and face the judgment. And all of that put together is where people kind of get paralyzed. But I love how you focus on the importance of just like, hey, let's lengthen out the time horizon and let's shrink the goal on what we need to do right now. And then that with consistency, like you're talking about, consistency and discipline, gets you to where you want to go at a much faster pace. And it's also fulfilling because you're finding fulfillment in the daily steps that you're taking rather than thinking that I can only experience fulfillment once I get to the goal.
Yeah. I mean, every single person wants the shortcut, right? Everyone wants like how do you get in good shape, or like, how do you make that money, or how do you do that? And it's always the same. It's literally consistency, discipline.
Yep.
Take that first step, like you said, and then analyze the data. Like that works for everything. If you want a 6-pack, if you want $1 million, if you want a Lamborghini, you want to go and buy an island in the Bahamas, like it's the same for every single thing. But no one wants to hear that. Like it's not cool. It's not cool to say, yeah, start a business and in 2.5 years, it'll be really good and it'll be a better life than you have now. But for those first 2.5 years, it's probably going to be worse than your current lifestyle. Why would you do it? Like it's a big risk to take, and it's a long time, and people can't take that on their ego. They don't want to take that ego step. I think if I went back and I jumped in with less naivety, I probably wouldn't have done it. Like knowing what I know now, that was so hard to do those first 18 months. Equally, it's worth it now, right? Because I can never go back to being employed. So when someone is talking about should I start a business, I think it's a really, really difficult conversation. It's so, so hard. And that's why I started jiu-jitsu, because I was like, I want to feel it again. I want to feel that, I'm like 85 kilos. I think I'm like 10% body fat. Like I'm a relatively fit guy. These 50 kilo guys, I'm doing it in kilos. I apologize. I can't do pounds.
You're fine.
We'll translate it. 50 kilo guys who are like 5'5" can take me down in like 30 seconds because they've done it for years. They're like black belts. They're purple belts. They've done it for years and years and years. And so I just have to stand there and get humbled. But I know, just like business, just like fitness in general, if you're consistent and disciplined, like you'll 100% get there. If you take that first step.
Yeah, 100%. No, and the concept of the ego, that I especially with my audience of young guys in their 20s and 30s, and that's something that it keeps people stuck at where they're at because they can't take the just the humbling that comes from doing something new for the first time that's a little bit different. I had on one of my good buddies, Nathan Fowler, on the podcast last year, I believe, and he brought up this ancient saying, esse quam devere. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It means to be rather than to seem.
Okay.
In saying that, it is, are you actually being the person, or do you just love talking about being the person? Do you like seeming the part rather than actually being the part? Do you like seeming like a successful business owner? Do you like seeming like you can put out some great motivational, inspirational content, or do you actually live that life? And in order to live that life, you have to step into that life one step at a time, which is a humbling experience when you do it for the first time in anything new.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, actually, because again, like we've documented everything. So like, I mean, Gary Vee said, document, don't create, didn't it?
Yeah.
You like just show everything that's going on. So we did. So in that first year, you'll have seen how terrible our podcast was, how terrible everything we were doing was. And you'll have seen how our net worth was just dropping and dropping and dropping. But with that comes vulnerability, which comes with trust, which builds familiarity. And over time, that will come back to help you. But yeah, I think you're so right with that. Be the person. Because so many people can't. They just can't. They have to go and take steroids, or they have to rent a Lamborghini to show that they're doing so well. And actually, they're the ones that are probably doing it for the wrong reasons, right? They're probably not the happiest. And what are you doing it for? Like, What are you taking that step for?
Like, do you just want the attention, or are you actually trying to have impact? Are you actually trying to build community? Are you actually trying to build trust? Because what I'll tell you, what doesn't build trust is putting out content that no one can resonate with. Like how many of my, if I wanted to go rent a Ferrari or rent a Lamborghini, rent a house in the Bahamas and go have a good weekend and put out some great content, I'll probably get some good views. But at the end of the day, it's like how many of my actual followers that are, invested and resonate with what I put out, how many of them are going to be able to, have a level of resonance with that? Like none of them. And that, like, that being said, like, my like what I'm trying to do is build a community of guys that are like-minded, that want to come together, that want to take more purposeful action every day. How am I going to build a community around people, around content that no one resonates with? So yeah, it promotes authenticity. It promotes genuineness when you can do it and be vulnerable and go through those hard times, because a lot of people will resonate with that. Be like, oh, I'm going through something too, and he's doing it and putting himself out there. I can do the same.
Exactly. Everyone's going through something, aren't they? Like whether they'll tell you about it or not, they're going through something. And so I think the best thing you can do is just show your personality. Because whether you're an introvert, an extrovert, whether you're amazing at math, whether you're amazing at science, maybe you're terrible at everything, you're still going to be the same as a massive proportion of the world. There's so many people in the world that we can be friends with, we can, network with, make money from or with, or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. If you just are yourself, you'll resonate with people, and it's so powerful. It's the best way to do it. I had an argument with a communication coach not long ago. He teaches all the NASA astronauts, current astronauts, how to communicate better across the ISS. And he was talking about when you go on stage, like a TED stage, for example, you should speak really slowly and eloquently, and you should enunciate, and you should use certain words. And I just fundamentally disagree, because you're listening to me now, so you know that I've got a British accent. You know that I speak relatively quickly, and I'll stumble over some words just because I'm excited. That's me. if I turn up on TV or on a stage and I'm speaking with an American accent, or I'm speaking really slowly or in a different way, I've completely lost trust with an audience who already knew me for what I was doing. And so I think even that is a level we have to be thinking of now, because we have AI, we have so many things that can copy you, and even business owners now, or anyone doing anything, can just copy. They're funnel hacking, they're taking everything, and they just can't take your story and they can't take your personality. So if you just show yourself as much as possible, I think it's the best way to achieve whatever you're looking for, because it will resonate with someone.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great point. And I want to dive into like what I know, like a big thing for you is in you know, this entrepreneurial journey that you stepped into is leveraging the power of podcasting. So I want to hear, like, why podcasts? Like what was the draw there for you to really go all in on that being your main focus?
Yeah, for sure. So I came to Dubai, and within 3 months, I started my podcast. So like you, I had like a $30 lapel mic. I was recording it with a script at my kitchen table with an iPhone and a friend who was the first guest. And I quickly realized that it was something that has so much depth to it. It wasn't TikTok dancing. It wasn't Instagram. It was a medium to actually build trust with a person. So one person I could speak to for an hour. That's really powerful. You then have so much content off the back of that, which makes everything easier, because you have to actually speak. It's not AI doing your posts, it's you. You're speaking, you're thinking, you're iterating, you're learning. And so for me, it became something that I just wanted to do. But more importantly, no one wanted to talk to me. I'd go to networking events, and because I didn't have, I had a very new business, it wasn't interesting to people. And so how do you talk to people? How do you learn? Well, you have a podcast, because it works both ways, right? There's a reason someone goes on a podcast, and there's a reason someone has a podcast, because they're building something hopefully of depth, and they're using brand instead of marketing, because they're two very different things. And brand is far more powerful in the long term. And so from my old company, I knew that brand was massive. Like, they didn't do any paid advertising. It was all brand built over time, because that builds depth of trust. And so I started to build it, and we got, a few listens here and there, a few downloads, but it started to get a lot of traction quite quickly. And I was able to access some amazing guests. I had a lady on who ran McDonald's Europe for 27 years. I had guys that were doing like 13 million through YouTube funnels with no staff, like really cool people. And I was getting contacted by people that were massive, like quite really well known in the entrepreneurial space, especially in Dubai and in the UK. And I realized I was onto something. And I sort of started to formalize it in my mind of what that was. And you can probably tell I'm quite big on trust, because that's something that I think is just so high in value. Like, if we have any new staff member join, any client, anyone comes on our podcast now, when it's, such a different beast than it was, it's always about trust. Can you trust that person? But podcasting is about borrowed trust. And this is the best way, I believe, to grow a business over the last 3 years and for the next 10 years, because there are trends that come and go. Instagram trend, TikTok trend, LinkedIn's a massive trend. Podcasting has just gone straight through the middle of that, all the way. It's storytelling. It's brand building. It's borrowing trust. And what I mean by borrowing trust is that you have already got an audience who trust you. They are here to listen to you. Therefore, if I come on and speak and I don't tell terrible stories and I'm not super boring, you have handed me a beacon of trust. So your audience already half trust me, because otherwise I wouldn't be here. You've obviously learned something about me that you wanted me on. And it works exactly the same way. When I bring my guests on, we do so much research into them, because I know my audience don't care about them. They care about me, and this person has to be trusted. And so when you get these massive guests on, often they think they are the celebrity. They're the one that brings all the audience members. And it's actually wrong. It's the wrong way of doing it. It's borrowed trust both ways. If I know who that guest audience are and vice versa, you're going to have a better interaction. And so you can see how it works, right? You can see how these top entrepreneurs, Hormozi, Ali Abdal, Dan Martell, look at all these guys. What do they do week in, week out? They go on podcasts. They don't run their own podcast. They go on podcasts, because it's efficient and it's borrowed trust, as opposed to dancing on TikTok and whatever. And so for me, it's not a trend. It's something that's going to be around for a long, long time. And I've said for probably 5 years, there's going to be the death of normal television. And I actually think Netflix is going to struggle as well because of the rise of podcasting and YouTube, especially because podcasts now, you've got Spotify video is massive, right? So you can actually have someone listen to your podcast, look at their phone and see the screen, see it all on there, see the person. That was always the biggest factor. You don't know what they look like. It's gone now. And so for me, I love podcasting. You can have incredible returns from podcasting for business, and growing businesses is my real passion and where my training is in. And so we've been able to now build a team out of people who are amazing at copywriting. We've got a head of AI, we've got a head of experimentation, we've got creative directors who literally help people to leverage the power of podcasts, because it's just something that is never going to go away. And there's so much to it that align with the values of trust building.
Yeah. So like, what do you think is more important? And maybe they're on different scales, but like between the two of using your podcast to get, high profile guests on to generate, to build their audience to you, or is it you making the effort to promote yourself to go out and be a guest on these podcasts that resonate with your ideal market?
It's both. Honestly, it's both. Like, we work with podcasters and podcast guests, because if you want to build your personal brand, you can leverage podcasts either way. So I wouldn't say start a podcast. I wouldn't say be a guest. I'm saying leverage podcasts. You can do either. It's the same principles. It's the same media in the back end. Some people will come and work with us and they'll be like, I actually might start a podcast instead. And we're like, cool. It's the same principle. The quickest way to build a podcast is to be a guest. The quickest way to build your personal brand is to be a guest. It all works in the same way, because in the back end, you still have to have a solid offer, good email marketing, really solid positioning, a good solid angle. You've got to have all the bits and bobs that you're going to need in any business. But the front end becomes, can I speak well? Can I communicate my value? Can I build familiarity with an audience? And can I bring them to my ecosystem? So it all works together. And so I wouldn't say having a podcast or being a guest is more important than the other. One's more expensive than the other. Like, having a podcast is not a cheap thing, and there's a lot that goes behind it. So maybe being a guest is more efficient, but they both are grown in very similar ways. Yeah.
So like, let's just use me as an example. Like my ideal market, young guys, growth minded in their 20s and 30s. Like, for me, what would you say? Would you say it would be better for me to focus on going out and finding guests that have personal brands where their market are the same, or those guys, or would it be better for me to go find podcasts that target young guys in their 20s and 30s that are growth minded, that are, focused on becoming the men that they know they were created to be? Like, what would you say would be the main focus if I'm really trying to grow trust with an audience?
So you already have your own podcast, right? So I wouldn't stop it, because you put effort into it, you've invested, you've obviously built something here which is of value. So I'd definitely keep doing that. And you're right, I'd go and find people to have on the podcast who your ideal audience want to hear from. So it might be people that are your exact ideal clients, like you just mentioned, or it might be people that they look up to. Maybe you could get someone like a David Goggins, or work up to a David Goggins, if that's relevant. You see what I mean? Someone who's inspirational. You have access to that kind of person. It gives you value. At the same time, you should definitely be looking at where they are already looking. So go and find all your ideal clients. Where are they looking? Who are they following? Try and get around that kind of person or those kind of podcasts, and build up from top 10%. So they're getting like 500 downloads an episode. Do 10 of them, work up to 7.5%. Work your way up to become a better and better guest. Then you can get on something like Rogan one day in 10 years' time, if he decides he's still doing it. But the point is, I would do both. I think it's really, really important to do both, as long as you enjoy it, right? If you enjoy dancing on TikTok, dance on TikTok. What I'm saying is, this is something that I think if you want to be a thought leader and you want to give out real value, this is the best way to do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think you made a great point right there. Is like, as long as you enjoy it, right? I think so many people get caught up in the idea of, getting into business because they want to grow a business, and they quickly realize they've worked themselves into another job because they've just done it, but they didn't really enjoy the daily steps like we were talking about earlier. They're so focused on the destination. Like the mission statement I have behind Take a Step is to redefine the way young men view success by shifting their focus from the destination to the process. And the process, I think, is where we find that real fulfillment and what we actually enjoy doing. So like as you got started and what you're currently building right now, where does your purpose come from in the work that you're doing?
Oh, that's a great question. Where does your purpose come from? I think my purpose comes from where I was, right? I was someone who was stuck in a corporate job. I felt like I had value. I was highly educated. I could do more, but you take that step. You finally take the hardest step in the world, which is to become self-employed, and no one cares. No one is there to help you. No one is going to support you. It's just you. In my case, it was me and my fiance, Antonio, which is almost worse because the stress that you have of the business is, encompassed by your entire life, your relationship. I'm lucky to have someone that I've been with for 10 plus years, and we're on the same team. We're striving to build something together, of great value and legacy. But the purpose was, I don't want this to happen to anyone again. Like, we can genuinely help people who have value. One of the main things that our sales team will do when they're talking to these entrepreneurs, experts, business owners, whoever it might be, is really understand, are they of value? Do they actually have value? Or are they trying to flog crypto? Or what are they trying to actually do? What's their vision? What's their value? Because we believe that if you work with us, you're going to have some success down the road. And so my purpose is to make sure people who deserve to be known and successful are helped and supported in a way that we weren't when we took that step. And it's even worse for people that we speak to who have been in business for 10 or 15 years. They're supporting a family, but only just. We were lucky. I was 27. We had a buffer of money in the bank from our jobs. We sold houses to make us have a longer runway that we could try this out for. So the risk was only to our egos. If we'd have gone bankrupt, we could have gone back to our jobs. But these people that have tried for years and years to get this business to work and to change the world for good, when we can help them, we're having this compounding effect of helping others. Some of my work I do sort of on the side is I work as like a trustee in the UK it's called. So you're like working with a charity. So I help run a charity on their board, but for free. You just help with your expertise.
Yeah.
And that aligns so nicely with what I stand for, because it's about helping kids in Africa, in India, in Nepal, in the favelas of Brazil, kids who have nothing. It's about helping them build character, resilience, and have a better time in their life. We have food programs, we have martial arts training to build their character and help them defend themselves from people that are going to try and take advantage. And we give them electrolytes to try and keep them to be less dehydrated. And that, I guess that with my values sums me up quite well. I just want other people to win so hard so that we can have a better impact on humanity. And so if it means that as a young man, someone has to give you a kick and say, take that step now, get fitter, or start that business, or do those extra hours, anything to move forward and to grow, and it needs to be done, because the end result is you can help more people with your expertise. And if you don't do that, it's selfish, because you have more to give than you probably are.
Yeah, and for me, I fully embody that mindset, and we have I kind of I call it the STEP framework, but it's the STEP framework is an acronym that really dives into 4 pillars of personal growth, which is what I talk about all the time: strength, tribe, expertise, and praise. And you talk about whatever that step is, make sure you're taking that step in those areas that are important to you. And what I've seen through my life, and what my audience really resonates with is, those are 4 categories that if I'm conscious about consistently taking steps in those areas. So strength, how am I building strength physically and mentally? Tribe, who am I doing life with? Who are my brothers? Who are the people I surround myself with? Whether if it's, close relationships, my spouse, making sure I'm there. I have attention to detail, and do these people make up the characteristics of the kind of person that I want to become? When it comes to expertise, what do you feel like you've been uniquely designed to do, and how are you taking action on that, especially when it comes to your professional life? Because I'm sure you experienced in those first 2 jobs, it's so many people get caught in that trap of just viewing work as something that we weren't designed to do. It's just something that we do while we're on earth. And we've just owned that mindset. When me, it's why would I take up 5 days out of a 7-day week for my entire life and not enjoy those days when I'm like, I've been put on this earth for a reason. And once I discover what that purpose is, like, why would I not take action on doing that as often as possible? Because not only will that bring me fulfillment, but that's where I actually add value to the world. Like, and what you're doing right now, you've discovered that, and now you're able to add value not only to the people you work with directly, but also to the kids that you get to work with through the nonprofit efforts that you're a part of. So that's where it comes with expertise, and then with praise. I have a pretty significant faith undertone to everything I do. My story as far as coming to Christ when I was in college, and some people, wherever you stand with that, at the end of the day, something's being praised through your life, like through your actions, through what you're doing on a daily basis. So with that said, like, who or what is being praised through your life, and are you okay with that? So many people say they want something to be glorified, or they want something to be praised through their life. But then if we actually sat down and did an audit of your calendar of what takes up your thoughts, what takes up your time, is that actually the case? Like, is that actually being praised? And if not, then what's that step we need to take? So it's like that conscious decision of each of these 4 pillars of the STEP framework. How am I consistently taking action in those areas? Because that's what's going to ultimately lead me to not only feeling purposeful, but also adding value to the world.
Yeah, exactly. I really like that. That last one's really, really important, because people don't do that, right? They don't look at the reason why, and they get caught up in, like, how do I get there, or should I even take that step to get there? And they don't think about the reason why. So I think that's a really, really good framework. I saw your framework yesterday, and I thought it was brilliant. Hormozy said it best. I think he said, in like 100 years' time, no one will even know your name. And when I first moved to Dubai, it was the same month that Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning British monarch in history, she died as soon as I moved here, and the country went into mourning. And it was something that you've read about for years. Like, what would happen if the Queen died? The UK and even the world in the world. I think it was a massive time when that happened. And when was the last time you thought about her? It's been 3 years. I haven't thought about her for probably a year and a half, 2 years. Because why would you? But she was one of the most influential, most wealthy, well thought of, well connected people ever. And she was alive in our lifetime, and she's gone, and we don't think about her and what she did. And it's so, if you think about why we don't take steps, why don't we post on Instagram, why don't we put ourselves out there? It's almost embarrassing that we think that we're relevant enough and that it matters enough. And that helps me a lot. Whenever I have a little blocker, I'm like, I have so much to give. And if I don't give it, no one cares. No one's going to care. But if I do, could help someone. I think that's all you need to think about as someone who wants to achieve more than they currently are.
Yeah, no, that snippet of Hormozy talking about that, he's talked about that a couple times on multiple podcasts. I think it was on Modern Wisdom that I heard it. But yeah, it's just like we place so much value in the opinions that other people will have on us, when it's like like in the grand scheme of things, you look at like existence, maybe probably 2 years after you pass, like you're talking about, 2 years after you pass, no one's gonna, like, their opinions are gonna die with you. Yeah. Like, so like why would I, like, within the constraints I have of the life I'm blessed to live, the minimal years I'm blessed to live on this earth, why would I change and alter that life based on someone's opinions that are going to die when I do? So yeah, I love that mindset, and it really helps someone say, hey, okay, like, I'm not going to make my decisions based on what they think. I'm going to do it based on what actually is going to give me purpose and give me fulfillment to where I can add that to the world. Yeah, exactly. That's the way to do it, for sure. Yeah, love it, man. Well, dude, this has been an awesome conversation. I've loved having you on, and I think I would love to do it again. If you're ever in the States, ever on the East Coast in some way, I'd love to get together and maybe get a run or get some jiu-jitsu. I've actually been considering getting into jiu-jitsu as well. A couple guys I share an office space with. I think we're all gonna go in on doing it. So we need to. No way. We're actually we're coming over. We're bringing the podcast over in September. We're on the East Coast, so we'll see. Perfect. We'll see if you're about. Yeah, definitely. Let's stay connected. But before we jump off, I'd love to let you kind of talk about where people can follow along with what you're doing and connect with you if they think if something that you said resonated with them. Where can they connect with you? Yeah, for sure. I mean, on my very small Instagram is Freddie Pullen, or if you just look at the healthyentrepreneur.club.com, you'll find
You'll find the business, you'll find the podcast, everything we do. It's all documented there, and you can find us quite easily.
Awesome. Love it, man. Well, one question we have before we jump off, it's a question I ask at the end of every podcast, with the mission of Take a Step and where I found myself. And, so many young guys find themselves in that trap of the complacency of feeling like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, of choosing comfort. It leads to a place of feeling stuck. So in your opinion, like guys that find themselves in those shoes, how can they really take that first step to taking more purposeful action and living a more, fulfilling life every day?
I think, well, the first thing is to find out what you want to do, right? So like, what does it look like to have a more fulfilling life? Like find that angle first. I think that's really, really important, because if you didn't know what you want to do, then there's almost no point in doing anything. Like, you need to find your angle, you find your position. But then the quote that I always think about is just, it's not even a quote, it's like a sentence, is never break a commitment to yourself. And so if you want to go to the gym and you want to get fitter, say to yourself, you're going to train 5 or 6 times a week. You do that, you will commit to that, and you will never break that promise to yourself. In the same way with the business, if you're going to run a business, you're going to start it and you're going to drive towards it for 2 years, and you're going to work 80, 100 hours a week. You're going to commit that, and it's going to happen. You're not going to miss it. If you want to like I say, drop some weight or something, you're going to give up Domino's pizza. You're going to give up all the fast food. You're going to measure your calories. You're going to do that for a year, and you're going to commit to it. And so finding what you want to do, like you said about the fulfillment piece, and then never breaking a commitment to yourself, you'll be so surprised how far you can get in even 6 months of just being consistent and finding the courage to commit.
Yeah. The consistency is what I talk about all the time, being like the simplest, most boring way to achieve the highest results. It's like consistency sounds so boring. It sounds like, I get it. I've heard this a million times. Well, you've heard it a million times for a reason, because it works.
I'm going to sound like Jocko Willink, but I'm just going to say good. Like, if it's boring, good, because it's all you need. It's all you need. And that's why people are winning, because it's boring and they're doing it again and again and again. People that are losing are the ones that are finding new things to look at, shiny object syndrome, lady in the red dress. They're looking for the new thing, and you've already found it. You need to do it. Yeah,
love it, man. Freddie, it's been great having you on. I hope you've taken as much value away as I have. It's been a real pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I enjoyed the chat.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, thanks for listening to another episode of the Take a Step podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a rating or a review on whichever platform you're listening. And guys, no matter where you are on your growth journey, every mile begins with a step. We'll talk to you in the next episode.